This is my audience. Conservation through captivity. Many species of animal are headed towards extinction faster than ever before, and simply protecting their habitat is not enough to save them. Captive breeding efforts and programs need much more public support than they currently have, as many species would already be extinct without these programs. Have you ever heard of the black-footed ferret or the California condor? Both of these California native species still exist because of captive breeding programs. If the countries such as the US, that is considered quite safe and strict on wildlife laws, can have two species almost go extinct, imagine what type of threats wildlife are facing with trafficking laws and enforcements are little to none, and poaching is a way of life. Organizations such as PETA oppose all zoos everywhere, regardless of the conditions of the zoo, as they believe wild animals should be left in the wild to live and die naturally. They actively oppose all zoos and campaigns against them, endlessly using funds from donors. While this may sound like a great idea, just leave the animals in the wild to live as they were meant to be. Humans have destroyed far too much of their habitat and pose far too great a risk to too many species to let them simply exist in a native habitat without any protection. Many are already on the verge of extinction if captive breeding programs are not set up to try and help their declining numbers. Many will simply just go extinct. Pandas' numbers in the wild have been declining for almost a decade as the human population in China grew and the need for more and more land to build houses slowly destroyed the panda's habitat. Without human interference, it is almost certainly the panda would have gone extinct by now. The captive breeding program, Panda International, was set up in China in 1955, and while there have been many bumps in the road to getting the pandas successfully to breed in captivity, the program has been successful, and after it was given enough time and money to really study the pandas. Pandas International now is looking to reintroduce the giant pandas into the natural habitat by restoring and protecting large areas of the panda's natural habitat. The reintroduction program is in its early stages still, but without captive breeding programs, the panda would never even had a chance in the wild, again in its safe environment. Now imagine if you took more than 60 years of full financial support from Chinese government to be able to preserve the pandas. What are some of the lesser known species of reptile fish have little public awareness, financial support to face in terms of conservation? According to the International Union of Conservation of Nature, there are currently 21,000 species of their red list facing extinction. This is a huge number of species facing extinction, and each one needs a special habitat study to be able to understand them and be able to breed them in captivity. For example, reptiles are often quite successfully kept in captivity, but there are far few animals initially collected from the wild to really create a thriving captive population. Imports of wild animals are also not tracked extensively, making it difficult to avoid inbreeding animals and keep the most genetic diversity possible. So why not try and save their natural habitat before going through the difficulties of captive breeding? Efforts to preserve habitat, protect the endangered animals have been made around the globe. The programs are just not always successful, and the progress of education and general population against destroying natural habitat are often too slow to help the species endangered quick enough. Take the rhino. Take the rhino, for example. The Marines, Special Force, and park rangers have all taken turns watching over the rhinos in South Africa at Kruger National Park. And yet, they are still killing by poaching every year. More awareness needs to be brought to the issue of these species. Face the campaign against the zoos and captive breeding programs needs to end. Funding for more conservation-based documentaries would help bring the public awareness about issues with these species. The species face. So many species are facing extinction, yet the public only knows of a handful such as the tiger, the rhino, and the panda. The more awareness of these species there are, the better as that also means more natural habitat can be saved from destruction. Captive breeding programs need more support and funding. Many programs run largely on donations alone. They need more solid support and funding from the general public so that many beautiful creatures will not disappear from the earth forever. Maybe one day they can be reintroduced in their natural habitat once the threat of destruction and habitat loss is no longer there. There's my audience.